welcome to Wrestling at Random. I'm Jeremy Deemer.
And I am Adam Summers.
And this is the show where every week we review a randomly chosen classic pro wrestling TV show from a streaming service.
Yes, in Season 2, it's all about pro wrestling TV, as Jeremy just mentioned. And it could be anything from pretty much any promotion or territory around the world that we've been able to get our hands on. Dump those thousands of hours and thousands of hours of wrestling TV into the randomizer. It pulls something, and that's what we watch. And again, it goes off the board for a promotion that, as a child, I absolutely hated. We'll see how I feel about it, and Jeremy, how you feel about it here in 1991 is when this is from. It is USWA.
Yeah, I was just excited because this aired on ESPN, so I was excited to just see any additional wrestling.
Yeah.
I wanted additional wrestling content. I didn't care where it came from in 1991. I just wanted some more wrestling content. Now, if it wasn't on like right after school, would I have watched it? No, not at all. Probably not. This is not a good show.
I was bitter because I was a big global fan, as
Sure.
people have heard if they've listened to the Patreon/Apple Podcast bonus show talking about Lightning Kid versus Jerry Lynn. I was a big global guy, and so I was nowhere near as happy about USWA being on ESPN, even though it was like kind of presented as being global, but not. Like, it was weird.
We'll get there. I'll explain what happened in a minute.
Thank you, because I don't fully understand it as we record
I
this.
read all about it, and I still don't have a great grasp on it either. We'll get to it in a second. You mentioned our bonus content. You can get additional weekly episodes of this show in the bonus feed. The bonus feed is accessible by signing up at patreon.com/wrestlingatrandom, where you can get a bonus show every single week and other cool prizes and tiers and other things you can do there. You can be the randomizer, pick a show. All that stuff is there at the Patreon feed. If you don't feel like going to the Patreon to create an account and put in your credit card and do all that stuff, that's okay too. The paid feed, that bonus content, is in your Apple Podcast feed right now. So if you're in Apple Podcast, there's a subscribe button. If you hit that, then you get all of the access to all the same bonus shows that are up at the Patreon, but delivered to you right in your Apple Podcast feed.
Super, super simple. Just tap the subscribe button. You'll have to confirm to make sure you want to pay the small monthly payment. Which you do. That keeps this podcast going, keeps the free feed going for you and everyone else as well. And then, boom, it's right there. Not only will the newest episode be there, but all the previous bonus content is there. And it's all in one feed. So you just get all your episodes free and bonus in the same spot at that point.
So let's talk about May 6th, 1991.
3 days after my 10th birthday? Is that what you're asking about?
USWA is a company that was formed by the merging of World Class Wrestling, which was the Dallas territory, and Continental Wrestling Association, which was the Memphis territory.
Which Continental we had talked about... or was that a
different?
That was a different Continental.
That was the Federation. Okay. This is the Association.
Yes, but it originally started. Okay,
that was Knoxville in Alabama area.
I was going to say, I thought we were going to get, unfortunately, Dixie Dynamite, but fortunately, Rob Fuller. More on that later.
Yeah, so this is Memphis territory and Dallas territory merging to become the USWA. In early '91, Jerry Jarrett, who was the owner of the USWA, signed a deal for the USWA to for their show to air nationally on ESPN. After a few weeks, ESPN was not happy with the product. Dave Meltzer, the Wrestling Observer newsletter, reports ESPN isn't happy with the USWA product and has been sending memos left and right with complaints about the show that airs on Mondays. Among the complaints are, 1, They want clean finishes rather than outside interference or disqualifications that are too prevalent.
Went to the wrong promotion for your TV then there, ESPN.
2, no more juice. Too much blood on the shows.
Again, went to the wrong promotion there, ESPN.
3, no more men attacking women or vice versa.
Again, not the right promotion for you, ESPN.
All problems that would follow the Jarrett family into other promotions throughout the life cycle.
Total nonstop action. All of that sounded very much like our reviews, particularly of weekly pay-per-view 7
and 8.
And 8. One on the bonus content feed, one on the free feed. Jarrett's gonna Jarrett.
They also weren't happy about the crowds of around 300 for the USWA Supercards. That's one reason why they had kids free last Friday.
There you go.
Throughout most of the first half of 1991, Jarrett was in talks with Joe Pedicino to potentially sell the USWA to him. Pedicino,
my guy, Joe Pedicino of Joe Pedicino Knows.
That's right. Pedicino wanted to start the Global Wrestling Federation, the GWF, and he really wanted that ESPN slot. So negotiations were on again, off again, until June, where the GWF announced it would start taping shows to air on ESPN in July of 1991. Most of the fans seemed to be happy with the change from USWA and that almost all the matches had clean finishes, there were very few run-ins, and there was no juice by an ESPN mandate. For more information on the history of global wrestling and where that picks up, listen to the bonus episode we did in the bonus feed right now for the Lightning Kid and Jerry Lynn.
So did they still have USWA content occasionally on ESPN as well going forward? Did they run reruns? Because I feel like
they moved them to a morning show.
Oh, okay,
yes.
That explains it, because I recall still like, oh, it's wrestling, I'll check it out, and then on ESPN it being USWA, and I still hate this.
So that takes us to this show, the USWA. Michael St. John welcomes us to USWA Challenge Wrestling.
This guy, Michael St. John, he in some ways he actually resembles appearance-wise the guy, I can't remember his name.
Mark Lawrence?
No, do not even sully the good name of Mark Lawrence with this guy. But no, the guy's name from the Continental. From the CWF show.
Yes, that guy was horrible.
This guy was much better. Same
much better.
vibe, similar look, but much better. He runs down the card.
No, what he had was, he looked like the guy from Continental, but he had a cadence like Mark Lawrence.
That's that's the best way of putting it. And he uses that cadence to run down the card, which I'm not going to run down because I don't want to spoil some of the big matches you're about to hear about. You go to commercial. We come back and it's the Boogeyman is in the ring. He looks like if the great Sasuke wore a mask of Jason, the film horror character.
The hockey mask from Friday the 13th from Jason. That hockey mask, but like also with like the full back of the mask,
like
too.
A weird hood behind it. And again, the only resemblance wrestling style wise to great Sasuke is the look, as far away as you could get. Although Sasuke is pretty crazy. I can imagine him wanting to wrestle this guy. But yes, it's the Boogeyman and Gary Young, another guy I had not thought of in decades that I remembered how much I was not a fan of him.
Yeah, so the Boogeyman's partner is Eric Embry.
Oh God, yeah, Eric Embry, who we saw on that Continental show, looking very like Dime Store Ric Flair. Here, a couple of years later, 4 years later, he is looking like the sleazy Eric Embry that I remember.
Yes, and so Eric Embry and the Boogeyman with their manager Tojo Yamamoto.
God, another guy I had totally forgotten about.
Their opponents are the aforementioned Gary Young and his partner Terry Garvin.
Yeah, Terry Garvin, who apparently was like the story is that he's sort of a young guy / a jobber almost. And basically Michael St. John says that Gary Young is going to have to do all the work here if they're going to survive this match. Gary Young, by the way, looks like... which again, this isn't an unusual thing for wrestling of this time, but he's definitely got a Freddie Mercury vibe going on as far as his haircut, his mustache.
Boogeyman starts with Gary Young. Horrible hip toss and a drop kick by Young. The Boogeyman is horrendous.
Yeah, he is not good. He looks roughly at the same skill level as that ninja from that AWA show that we watched. Probably the same guy.
Oh, horrible.
I do have to mention that
I tried. I did a Wikipedia surf to try to identify this Boogeyman.
Really? No luck?
No, nothing. So I couldn't figure it out.
I have to mention Eric Embry while we're talking about looks. Eric Embry looks so much like, remember we talked about on that WCW Saturday Night episode, the guy, Robbie Eagle without an S,
yes,
that wrestled Sting, and he looked like 12 years old but doughy and sleazy.
Yes.
Eric Embry looks like a grown-up Robbie Eagle here. Also, Gary Young and Eric Embry are basically wearing the same gear, which thankfully Michael St. John explains is that they were former tag team partners, but why are they still wearing their tag team gear?
I appreciated the explanation.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate the logic.
No.
But no, it's funny that you mentioned from that WCW show, Robbie Eagle. After we recorded that show, I saw that Robbie Eagle actually went on to become the Maestro.
That is
later.
Incredible.
So, I had no idea. I almost called an emergency podcast so we could edit that into the show, but glad we got it in here. So Young with some right hands, and then he tags in Terry Garvin. Garvin works over Embry's arm. He works the arm, quote, like a well, and he's pumping water.
Yes, Bill Dundee is on commentary here with Michael St. John, and yes, he says it's like he's pumping well water as he does these arm ringers. Gary Young at some point ducks. Eric Embry hits a big knee lift. More punches. The people don't like Eric Embry. That is clear, and they're correct. He's again, maybe one of the last, particularly we're almost beyond the territory era, even though this is still a territory. For my money, maybe one of the last like great sleazy, no redeeming qualities territory heels.
Yeah, Young through the legs of Embry, and Garvin gets the tag and comes in running wild all over Embry.
Running wild's a bit of a stretch. It's more of the mild variety.
Something happened, and then Embry just rolls up Garvin, puts his feet on the ropes, and gets the pin.
Yeah, he gets the 10 punches in the corner. Gary Young is going after the Boogeyman. Embry just takes Garvin down, like not MMA style, just kind of drags him down, gets the pin with the feet on the ropes, and that's it.
Embry and the Boogeyman win. Bill Dundee then hits the ring to show the ref what happened. He's telling him about the feet on the ropes. Embry confronts Dundee. They start brawling.
Well, first, everyone's just watching. Like, Eric Embry goes at Bill Dundee after Dundee comes into the ring, and then everyone is just standing there for what felt like an eternity. Finally, the Boogeyman grabs the nunchucks, as Michael St. John calls them, the nunchucks. Apparently, maybe they sprayed them with something to... Maybe it was like the spray from the matches in Japan. You spray the numbing spray. Maybe he sprayed that on this martial arts weapon. He chokes out Bill Dundee. A man named El Pistolero is there.
El Grande Pistolero.
Yeah, sorry, El Grande Pistolero. He's old. We'll get to him later.
He starts fighting with Young, which is ironic.
Yeah, at first I thought he was into help, and then because it didn't look like he was really. I don't know. It just had a weird vibe to it. Michael St. John, who I keep wanting to call Michael St. Croix. I don't know why. It just seems like it fits even more. Keeps calling them nunchucks. Tojo Yamamoto leads the heels away. This was the most...
So Pistolero is part of Yamamoto's gang, we're told. So that's why he's helping to fight here.
It's so perfunctory. We talked about some of the heel antics on that World Class 87 show that just felt like guys going through the motions of being a heel. That's what almost pretty much everybody other than Embry on the Yamamoto squad felt like here.
Yeah, they left the good guys laying. Fun fact, this show in Dallas drew 918 fans.
Yeah, so definitely less than World Class would have drawn to the Sportatorium, same building in the mid-'80s.
Yeah, and all seats for this show were $5 because it was Cinco de Mayo.
There you go. So, I will say that it did have it was a bigger crowd than that World Class show from '87, and the crowd was more into it than that World Class show from '87. That was a dead small crowd. These people that were here largely were interested in this. God knows why, but they were.
If you do the math on 900 fans at $5 a head, the payouts were quite rough for this TV. Terry Garvin's payoff was $40, so he quit the promotion after this match.
Wow, that's almost like 2000s, I'll give you a hot dog and I'll get you next time, kid. That's that level payout.
So after commercial, Private Terry Daniels in the ring to take on El Grande Pistolero.
Yeah, we're through 2 matches, and the noteworthy thing is that there's a Terry quota that must be filled, and sadly it will not be filled by Funk by the end of this show. But yes, Private Terry Daniels, who I'm left to believe that it's not that he's in the military, it's just that he doesn't like people knowing what he's doing.
He's very...
he seems just very
introverted.
Yeah, an introverted man, because he's just wearing like yellow and red trunks. There's nothing about him that screams ex-military. They do not mention that he's a military man, but I guess the only thing we see is in the graphic beforehand. It says, "Call in the Marine."
Call in the Marine.
But this is not like a Ranger Ross or a Sergeant Craig Pittman or any of these guys. There's nothing military about his presentation.
We are told devious means were used by Embry to defeat Jarrett for the Southern Championship.
Yes, he said Michael St.
John.
I was going to say Michael St. Croix again. He says, Jarrett versus Embry last night was so wild, we can't show you any of it. But Eric Embry is the new Southern champion, which was basically the champion of the promotion, is my understanding. But again, exact quote, devious means were used indeed.
Pistolero grabs a huge weapon.
Before we get to that, we need to talk about the textbook dictionary definition of dad bod. Or maybe Grandpa bod.
For Private Terry Daniels?
No, that El Pistolero has.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
El Pistolero.
You can tell this guy is so old and just has a mask on.
Like, yes, he is. I mean, Private Terry Daniels looks. He's got big Jesse Barr vibes.
Yes,
is the best way I can describe his look. But we also when Michael St. John is talking about the Embry Jarrett match, was mostly this Pistolero Private Terry Daniels match is just a backdrop for a mini pod from Michael St. John about Jarrett versus Embry. We've already heard twice in this show, we've heard nicknames for Jeff Jarrett. He has multiple. Yeah. He's referred to as the Golden Boy Jeff Jarrett, but then he's also referred to as simply irresistible Jeff Jarrett.
See, I think Golden Boy was his actual name, and then simply irresistible is just Michael St. John's pet name for Jeff Jarrett.
he was editorializing.
That's right. So Pistolero grabs the timekeeper's the hammer for the ring bell. He grabs this weapon and puts it in his trunks behind his back.
Yes.
And then trying to hide it from the referee, eventually he drops it. The referee finds it. He does have a funny moment where he tries to blame the fans for throwing it into the ring.
He has a few moments, actually. Pistolero, at one point soon after what you said, Daniels hits a drop kick, just a drop kick, and Pistolero motions that Daniels pulled his mask while doing the drop kick, which is so absurd and great. I will give him credit there.
Now, this drop kick that Daniels hit, it looked like it took all of Daniels' effort to hit that drop kick. Like, it's the bookend for when we talk about in our paid feed, we talk about ECW and we talk about Lance Storm and how effortless Lance Storm is at hitting a drop kick.
This was effortful.
Effortful. This is the bookend. This is the other end of the spectrum. He gave it everything he had for this drop kick. And then Pistolero he slams him, chokes him with his boot.
Yes.
We get a backdrop, but
oh my God, this backdrop! Sorry, I got to stop and I got to describe this. This guy, I legitimately laughed out loud when this happened. Pistolero goes for a backdrop. Private Terry Daniels, who apparently at this point is gassed from that dropkick attempt, tries to flip out and land on his feet, but is caught in between more than you've ever seen in a wrestling move in your life, and just fell spectacular. As I said, lands on his rear end, and nobody has any idea what to do. They jockey awkwardly after this. Daniels just punches him twice and then puts an inside cradle into practice here. Small packages the man and pins El Pistolero as Michael St. John yells, "Holy Toledo!"
Terry Daniels is so bad here.
He is,
horrible.
He seems almost untrained. He's a guy that the WWF would book to do job matches, like that type of guy in the 80s. He's got a great physique, but that's where it begins and ends.
So now we're told we're joining a Tennessee street fight in progress.
I'm already mad because they ran down earlier what the matches were going to be on this show. So the match we're about to describe, I was beyond hyped for. And then we're told this is going to start in progress.
Oh, I was so disappointed that we weren't going to get the full match of this. The team of Jeff Jarrett and Robert Fuller are the baby faces.
Yes. Colonel Rob Parker, Robert Fuller, who everyone remembers, again, Colonel Rob Parker from WCW. We talked at great length about how incredible he was as the leader of the stud stable, Rob Fuller, in Continental. Here he is a baby face with Simply Irresistible / Golden Boy Jeff Jarrett. Their opponents are Dr. Tom Prichard, a couple years before he would become one half of the Heavenly Bodies in Smoky Mountain, and his tag team partner, Stunning Steve Austin.
That's right. Now, and this is shortly before, this is just a couple months before Austin would go up to WCW.
And become, coincidentally, my favorite wrestler. When Steve Austin went to WCW as Stunning Steve, this is not revisionist history. I've talked about it before on this podcast. You can ask my dad, who might not be the most impartial source, but anyone who knew me back then would know that he was my guy. Yes, here he is teaming with Dr. Tom Prichard. Fashion Corner, as we join this match in progress, I am filled with joy. My heart is full because all four men in this Tennessee street fight are wearing street clothes, jeans and T-shirts, cowboy boots aplenty with jeans tucked into them, and the best thing in any sort of street fight, bunkhouse style match, knee pads over the jeans.
Over the jeans.
I love it.
That is correct. We join the match in progress, like we mentioned. Fuller's working over Prichard's arm until Tom Prichard goes for the eyes. Fuller fights back with punches.
Fuller is jacked to the gills here, and it's one of those things where I had totally forgotten, just because I hadn't thought about it in so long, that he was a wrestler for a long time and was like a big-time territory guy, because you always just think of him as a manager. It's also crazy because that Continental show we watched was from 1989. He's a manager taking like wacky, I'm a manager, I just got punched bumps. And then here in 1991 in USWA, he's a full-fledged, badass babyface wrestler in a street fight.
Yeah, Jarrett's in. He hits Prichard with his boot as he went to the wrong corner. So that's the beauty of wearing these cowboy boots, is you can use them as a weapon in this street fight. Austin makes the save.
Austin, we should mention, by the way, the physically biggest I have ever seen him.
He's enormous. He looks humongous here.
He's wearing like a loose-fitting tank top, but you can still see he is just huge. And again, it's muscle, but it's also just mass. I've never seen him that big and that thick. Like, he almost looks like a mini Scott Norton here as compared to what he would look like even just a few months later joining WCW.
Yeah, Austin. Austin and Prichard are double teaming, and you get they're double teaming Jeff Jarrett.
We get great Steve Austin punches.
We do.
Even back then, he still had the same type of punches. He was less than 2 years into his career here and was already like a main event level guy in USWA.
Jarrett, as he's being double teamed, tosses his belt to Fuller, who comes in and starts whipping Austin with the belt. Austin and Prichard are outside on the floor. After regrouping, Prichard then comes back into the ring.
Can we talk about how terrible this ref is, by the way? Tony Falk.
Oh, Father Time? Yeah, like I thought, he reminded me of that. Who's the old Bronco Lubitsch?
Bronco Lubitsch.
Bronco Lubitsch
From World Class, or my memories of seeing Ole Anderson referee live at WCW shows in the early 90s as the troubleshooting referee. They would actually have him work a few matches
Just
as a ref.
Slowest counts.
Slowest count, not dramatic at all. You can just like feel time stop and the wrestlers wait for the arm to almost come down to kick out.
That's just horrible. Austin and Prichard, after regrouping, they're back in the ring. Jarrett grabs him from behind with the belt, choking him. Jarrett off the ropes, but Austin with a knee to Jarrett's back from the apron, which is one of my favorite tag team heel moves.
Oh, yeah.
Now Prichard has the belt, and he starts whipping Jarrett with it.
The whole crowd is chanting, "Go, Jeff, go." Jeff Jarrett is the golden boy here in the Sportatorium in 91. People love him.
Austin back in, double clotheslining Jarrett with the belt. Babyface Robert Fuller in the corner is super weird, but super awesome.
Oh,
he's just trying to get in and get this tag.
He's trying to get in and get the tag. You can like see the pain on his face as he's so desperate to get in and help his friend. It's the opposite of, we saw Dick Slater, who we love on this podcast, but we saw him as a babyface and it just didn't work. Greg the Hammer Valentine as a babyface and it didn't work. But here, Robert Fuller's that rare guy that while he was a great heel, he was every bit as good of a fiery, like mean, down and dirty babyface.
No, I was ready to type miscast as a babyface, and then no, I was wrong. He was absolutely phenomenal. And Greg Valentine doesn't work in any role, by the way. I digress. Both guys back and forth as fast as they can, and Jarrett hits a crossbody, has the cover, but Prichard has the ref. Jarrett pulls out a chain, and Prichard backs off.
Well, we also have, when that happens, or maybe this is what you're about to say, but Fuller is so great as he's desperate to try to get in, and the ref is holding him back after because he sees the chain, ostensibly.
Yep. Yeah, so he's being held back. Jarrett on the outside, he's able to grab a chair and stalk Prichard around ringside, but Austin on the apron nails Jarrett from behind. Jarrett tries to fight, but Prichard grabs Jarrett's chain. He nails Jarrett in the head with it, chokes him with it. He takes his cowboy boot off, nails Jarrett in the head with it. Jarrett's, by the way, this isn't the Jeff Jarrett that you're thinking of. He's
incredible as a babyface here.
Babyface, underdog, selling a beating.
Oh, he's Ricky Morton here.
He's Ricky Morton here.
He's incredible. Michael St. John has a great line when Dr. Tom Prichard is beating Jeff Jarrett with a chain. He says, "A dangerous man with a dangerous object."
Spinning clothesline by Austin.
I love when he would do that. So
good.
He would whip the guy off the ropes and do this somehow both stumbling but completely coordinated spin into a clothesline. It's hard to describe it, but you haven't seen anyone else do a spinning like a discus clothesline like this. It was from Irish whip to spin to clothesline. It was all one motion.
Small package by Jarrett, but Prichard makes the save after a long chin lock. Not a chin lock, actually. He has like his hands locked with both arms sandwiching Jarrett's head in a chin lock position.
This was a break, is the only way you can describe it. It took forever. Jeff finally fights out with elbows and punches, knocks Austin off the apron, but then gets caught in a bear hug, first by Dr. Tom, then Austin gets tagged in. He locks the bear hug on, and Michael St. John refers to this as a compromising position, a submission situation. We then get a camera shot that I swear to God, Gorilla Monsoon was backstage directing this show. We get a close-up, a tight close-up on the grip.
The grip and the positioning on the back for Gorilla Monsoon, yes. If you don't know what we're referencing, go back and listen to our most underrated podcast, our Royal Albert Hall podcast from season 1. Go back and listen to that one.
WWF tape live event from Royal Albert Hall. Great stuff.
So the arm drops twice, and Jarrett starts fighting back out of this bear hug.
And this is where Fuller is so incredible, pleading for Jarrett to keep fighting.
Loud, "Go, Jeff, go" chants from the crowd. Austin misses a charge into the corner, tags Prichard. Jarrett fights, backdrop, but he misses an elbow.
And Michael St. John says, direct quote, Jeffrey is down.
Jarrett with a vertical suplex. Both men are down. Jarrett's crawling for a tag. He leaps and makes the tag, and Fuller with the hot tag makes his baby face come back running wild. This was awesome.
I'm just going to, spoiler alert for the end of the podcast. Best thing on the show was this hot tag. Also, the camera work was fantastic. They had a camera like next to Fuller or just behind him, I guess, like on the apron.
So Jarrett's leaping into your living room to make the tag.
It was so good. And then Fuller, the Tennessee stud, running wild. I just wanted this to
throwing
never
some
end.
of the best punches you've seen. Like this guy's just, and with babyface fire, like unbelievable.
Like on his face, not just in his in sort of his body motions. These were punches that Jerry Lawler would be jealous of.
This was great, and everyone spills out to the floor. Prichard gets posted twice.
Yeah, it was funny because they missed the posting on the first one, and then it felt like, even though this wasn't live, like someone yelled to the referee, "Get it again!" And so they do it again.
Austin has Yamamoto's briefcase. Jarrett moves, and Austin hits Prichard inadvertently with the briefcase.
Because as I've talked about on other podcasts before, other episodes of this podcast, when you go to execute a move, it's like tapping the button on a wrestling video game.
You can't stop.
The animation has to be played out to its full finish, and so you have to hit the guy even if he wasn't the guy you intended to hit.
Fuller takes the case and hits Austin with it. They double team Austin. Jarrett knocks Prichard to the floor again with the briefcase. Jarrett off the middle rope, hits Austin with the briefcase.
He waffled him with the briefcase
Crushed
this time. I felt so bad for Austin here. Part of me wondered if this was his send off from the territory.
It was very close. Jarrett, crushes Austin with the briefcase to the head. Both men cover Austin and get the 3 count.
Coming back into the ring. Jarrett meets him with that briefcase one more time. Austin being held. Jarrett. Down. Whoa. Austin is down. He's out. Here's the cover by both men. 2, 3. That's it. The Tennessee street fight won by the Golden Boy Jeff Jarrett and the Tennessee stud Robert Fuller.
I loved this. This was, again, it was basic. There was nothing, nothing groundbreaking about it, but just a great hate-filled street fight. While, yes, they were obeying tag team rules, it got heated from the beginning. It would get chaotic at times and really, really never let up. And this was, as great as we talked about Jeff Jarrett was, this was the Rob Fuller show.
This totally was.
Even though he was barely in the match as far as legal, everything about Robert Fuller here was amazing.
Mascara de Fuego versus El Gran Coloso.
So there's a few things to say about it. First, it was awful, but it was legitimately mind-blowing to see here in the Sportatorium in 91, Mascara del Fuego doing some of these, classic high-flying lucha spots. It felt so out of place, and he didn't do them particularly well, but it still was oddly impressive. Crowd, by the way, not into this at all.
No, the commentator says they are vocal with their feet because they do lots of aerial work.
It's like, not quite the educated feet describing martial arts, but still, I've never heard that before.
We start with some basic lucha.
We got a few awesome helicopter arm drags from Fuego, which I was not expecting because he was not a physically or visually impressive man. Neither of these were.
No, De Fuego with a Rana and Colosso bails to the outside.
Michael St. John has no idea what to call this Frankensteiner, by the way.
No.
He legitimately says, I am struggling with how to call this move.
Drop kicks by De Fuego, another Rana. He tries another one, but is countered into a powerbomb, and El Gran Coloso, who did nothing except for some bad lucha earlier, wins the match.
He literally countered a Rana into a powerbomb, and that was it. That was his move. It was enough to get the job done. I don't know if he was even a legit luchador. Mascara del Fuego seemed like he was a low-end legit luchador by some of the stuff he was able to bust out.
El Gran Coloso was amateur lucha, and there's nothing. I mean, amateur hip hop is as close as on the horrible scale as you get to amateur lucha.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Great lucha is right up there with the best wrestling in the world.
Absolutely.
But bad lucha is, for my money, the worst wrestling in the world.
The worst.
As far as in-ring product, bad lucha is not where it's at.
So, chain match is our main event.
Our main event of the evening was not the Tennessee Street Fight. It is a chain match. The Texas Hangmen, masked men.
They're your tag team champions.
Yes, the world tag team champions, we are told several times. But the belts are not on the line in this double dog collar match. Their opponents are Bill Dundee, doing double duty here tonight, and Danny Davis.
Nightmare Danny Davis. He would eventually become the owner of Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW, the WWE's longtime developmental territory.
We need to talk, before we get any further, we need to talk about this chain and how these men were chained together. Because if you're thinking a normal dog collar match or a Russian chain match, and you're thinking, okay, it's a tag match, so you're going to have two pairs of guys chained together. Not the case.
No, you have the chain is hooked to each man's wrist, and it's tied together in the middle, so all the chains are on like one big ring in the middle.
It's a chain compass.
Yes, so like there's four meeting in the middle, and they're not long chains. These chains are short. And so there is not a lot of distance.
Yeah, they're shorter than the length of one strand of ropes of like one side of the ring. It's very, very poorly executed here. You've got four guys, and they're tied all together, so no one can get away from anyone to be able to do anything. And the chain is so short that it's like they can't ever get out of each other's way, ever.
So let's talk about the Texas Hangmen real quick.
These guys belonged as jobbers on that Continental show where everybody had to wear a mask if you lost.
So while I was looking who is the boogeyman and couldn't find it, I was able to find who the Texas Hangmen were.
Well, you were able to find who they were, but let's note that there was no attempt to delineate between these two men. It wasn't even like
1 and 2,
Jim Ross saying Doom 1 and Doom 2. They never even attempted to say that one was a different man. They might as well have just been the same guy.
One guy is Frank Vizi, V-I-Z-I, and the other guy is Mike Moran. Now, Frank eventually became known as Bull Payne.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me?
No.
Wow, I saw Bull Payne.
You probably saw him in IWA Mid-South.
Yeah,
right?
I remember Bull Payne making some appearances in early 90s WCW, but then I saw Bull Payne dozens of times in IWA Mid-South.
Yep.
Oh my God.
He's one.
I take everything back. You're great, Bull Payne. I don't want you to kill me. He's a terrifying man.
Moran, his partner, is also known as Mean Mike, who was one half of the team Disorderly Conduct.
Oh my God.
In World Championship
Wrestling.
my
God.
So there you go. That's your Texas
so it's
Hangman.
Bull Payne and one half of Disorderly Conduct here in masks. Okay, wow. I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse about this, but everyone's got to start somewhere. Yeah, because Bull Payne, Bull Payne, very briefly or very shortly after this, would go on to be Bull Payne in Global.
Correct.
Because I remember my first memories of Bull Payne are in Global, and then years later seeing him in IWA Mid-South, my mind was blown. Wow.
So
I'm still shaking my head. You can't hear it, but I'm shaking my head.
Good guys start by choking, just choking the Hangmen down with the chains. And
we don't know. By the way, do we learn why this is hanging? Why these men hate each other? We're not told at all.
There's no recap.
We
There's
don't know
no information about how we got here. No. The Hangmen fight back, punching and choking with the chain as well. Back and forth, choking and hitting with the chain. They can't do much because we've told you it's a short chain. So all they're doing is like hitting each other with it and choking.
Yeah, there's not much we can say about the action of this match, but I have very specific and important thoughts on the commentary.
Okay.
So Michael St. John tells us that Max Andrews, who's the authority figure of sorts here in the USWA, has signed a special tag match for next week where Eric Embry and Dr. Tom Prichard will face Jeff Jarrett and Robert Fuller. Again, remember we talked about Jeff Jarrett and Eric Embry having that match that was too violent for TV. Max Andrews has decreed that this match will not be shown on television. It is only for the fans at the Sportatorium because they're worried about how violent it will be. This is happening while 4 men are in the ring, chained to each other, asphyxiating each other with steel chains. Literally, that is happening at the exact moment that Michael St. John keeps talking about how they can't show that match next week because it's going to be too violent. You could look at this one of two ways. Either this juxtaposition is telling you that, oh my God, they're actually going to kill each other next week. Someone is going to die if that's too violent, but this isn't. Or it's just terrible TV production that we have this violent match where men are killing each other, but we're being told this other violent match where men are going to kill each other. We can't show you.
The Hangmen roll out to the floor, and we have a tug of war with the chains.
Legitimately a tug of war.
Dundee then comes out to the floor. Same with Davis, and they're on the attack. They brawl on the outside, and everyone has to go back in the ring together. They send them into the ropes, kinda, and hit double backdrops, which was, again, challenging with this chain, to say the least. The chain's getting all twisted up at this point. After a commercial, the Hangmen are now beating down Davis and Dundee. Davis and Dundee battle back with nothing but choking with the chains again.
This is, again, where Michael St. John is saying that next week is going to be too brutal to show. This is as the faces each get the advantage with leg sweeps on each respective unnamed hangman, and then they are choking, chain wrapped around the neck, choking, trying to choke the life out of these men, yet we're supposed to believe the other match next week is somehow too violent for TV?
Well, hopefully the match next week is not as hideously boring as this match is.
Yeah, can Max Andrews
is horrible.
Can he ban matches from TV for being too boring? I'm
so boring.
Far more concerned about that. We then have an attempt to unmask one of the hangmen. This is where Michael St. John just refers to them as the Hangman and the other Hangman. I choose to believe Bull Payne is the Hangman, and Too Tough Tony or whoever it was is other Hangman. He then says, Michael St. John says that this match has slowed down due to the physicality, and that is demonstrably false.
No.
It can't, if you're already at a dead stop, you can't slow.
So much choking with chains. The good guys are fading. 2 counts all around by the Hangmen.
Long 2 counts because we got Tony Falk here.
Referee Tony Falk counting the slowest counts ever. I want this match to end.
Michael St. John at this moment says, direct quote, "This match has had its moments." It has not.
No, false. Hangman 1 accidentally hits Hangman 2 with the chain.
Which leads me to believe, man, maybe the Hangman 3 in Ring of Honor would have been better if Bull Payne and one half of Disorderly Conduct were there and not Brent Albright.
Dundee to the top rope. Davis tries like a rocket launcher, and Dundee hits a crossbody on the Hangman.
Imagine Danny Davis trying a rocket launcher with Bill Dundee as everyone was wrapped up in a chain, and you got a good visual of what this was, or more accurately, wasn't.
Yeah, he got the pin. This match sucked.
Brutal.
That was that was the end. Now, after the match,
hold on. I would make the argument that this was the worst non-70s competitive match that we've seen.
Yes, it's worse than anything in the 80s we've seen.
Yes, because we're into the era of
the 90s now. Yeah,
of when guys do stuff.
Yes.
Look, we're not in the 70s where it's all about selling. We're in the era of when wrestlers do things.
Yes.
And then the other thing is we saw a much better version of what these guys were trying to do 15 minutes earlier with that Tennessee street fight.
Superstar Billy stops for a quick promo.
Victory in this match. Superstar Billy and the Nightmare Danny Davis. We've got Superstar Billy here. Bill, I know you've got some words to say.
Yes, I do. Let me tell you something, Embry. Let me tell you something, Tojo Yamamoto. And let me tell you something, Boogeyman. I don't know who you are, what you are, or what you think you are. But I want you to listen, and listen good, punk. This is Dallas, Texas, and they all understand this. On a good day, there ain't a cowboy that can be throwed, and there ain't a cowboy and a horse that can be rode. And we just beat them 2 monsters, and you're no better than they are. And next week, right here, Friday night, I'm taking that stupid mask off and whooping your all over this building. And see if I don't. And Embry, I hope you try to help him.
Superstar Bill Dundee with words about his upcoming match with the Boogeyman. And he is hot. But at the Sportatorium, you'll see it. Let's take a break. We'll return and wrap things up right after this.
Yeah, this promo.
I love that Michael keeps calling him Billy. Yes. Superstar Billy.
And I don't know if you're going to play this promo.
I played the promo.
Okay,
Yeah.
because when he says, and I guess if you're listening to this, you'll be able to understand this better than I could, but my notes say that something about there ain't a cowboy that can't be throwed or rode.
You're
Am I half right?
if you're you're a cowboy that can't be throwed and a horse that can't be rode.
It's also, imagine this in the truly unique, one-of-a-kind accent that superstar Bill Dundee has at this point, being from abroad, but then having lived and wrestled for so long in the South. It is weird.
After commercial, Michael St. John recaps what we saw.
Well, before commercial, the graphic just says, "More with Mike."
Yeah, he recaps what we saw, and the show ends. This sucked.
He recaps what we saw. Here's some of what the recap. He says, the action was as hot and heavy as it gets. Simply irresistible, Jeff Jarrett. He then says, we saw some of the best stars in all of the world. And we're up to 4 demonstrably false statements from Michael St. John here. He then says, for the to go to a nice round number of 5 false statements, he says, when you see the USWA banner, you know you are getting the best in professional wrestling. Instead, we got the worst. I can't say this is the worst TV show we've reviewed on this season because of the Tennessee street fight. I loved every moment of that. But if everything else on this, I would make the argument, is worse than the worst stuff on all the other shows, all the other episodes we watched that we thought were really bad.
Correct. This is by far, that chain match was the most hideously boring thing I've reviewed on the show. And
the worst main event. Probably the worst main event I've been watching wrestling for 35 years as a 40-year-old man. That is probably the worst main event, at least of a television show, if not of a house show that I was at or of a pay-per-view that I ordered.
How do you put that match on last? Like, how do you put that on after the Tennessee street fight?
Exactly. That should have been
a taped show. Horrible.
Should have been on a different week if it was going to air at all, or if it was going to air on this show, it should have been like the opener. Although, God, you're going to lose all the audience there.
It just shouldn't be.
It shouldn't have been on. But there's no way again that should have gone on after the Tennessee street fight. Could you imagine being Robert Fuller, and you have to have some self-awareness of how great you are, and then you have to watch these guys in the TV main event? And again, Bill Dundee, awesome, but not here. There was nothing redeemable about that match.
All right, we've talked a lot about what we liked the most, and that's obviously the Tennessee street fight. What is for you the worst thing on this show? There's a lot to choose from.
I mean, the main event is hideous. I don't think you could ever go wrong for all the reasons we said, saying that was terrible. I also thought it was, again, there's not much there with Tojo Yamamoto. We didn't miss anything, but the fact that he's a manager that we almost never see, we never hear from him on this episode.
No.
I would make the argument that as far as a performance, a singular individual performance, unencumbered by the chains and everything else on that main event, Terry Daniels, not a good professional wrestler.
No.
Also, wait, again, sometimes this happens where the thing at the beginning might be the worst and we forget because there's so much other terrible stuff. The Boogeyman?
The Boogeyman is the worst. Apologies to Terry Daniels. The Boogeyman is a significantly worse wrestler than Terry Daniels.
He's on the reverse Mount Rushmore for wrestlers we've seen on this show.
I mean, El Gran Colosso was also just unwatchable.
Don't forget about Pistolero.
So, at least Pistolero did some funny stuff.
Yes.
So
the hair pull drop kick spot.
That's redeeming. So a lot of horrible things to choose from. That's it. The randomizer took us to USWA, and hopefully
hope it doesn't take us back.
We never go back.
I desperately want to go back to the Sportatorium, but think about this. The Sportatorium, that was the wrestling I grew up on watching on television, world class, along with Mid-South. The Von Erichs were my heroes as a kid. The randomizer has given us 1987 World Class from the Sportatorium and 1991 USWA Challenge from the Sportatorium. Give me like 83, 84 World Class. Give me Freebirds Von Erichs at their peak. Any of that. Come on.
Well, that's why the show is random. We have to review some of these shows too. The randomizer giveth and it taketh away.
And it snatched away with both arms and ran like a thief in the night.
If you want to defend USWA's action, you can do that via Twitter. @WrestleAtRandom is the best way to interact with the show.
We may, if you do that, it may be the first and only time we
Block.
Not only do we block people on social media, we refuse their payment through Apple Podcasts or the Patreon.
And so,
Not really, but maybe.
Yes, and Facebook.com/WrestlingAtRandom as well. You can also listen to the podcast via our YouTube. All of those links are available at the website, wrestlingatrandom.com. We, again, mentioned a bunch of shows from the back catalog from the previous season. All of those shows are available to you right now, and they're waiting for you. Evergreen content. Listen to anything you might have skipped or missed. Go back. It's all there for you in the archives for free. You can listen to everything in the free feed going back to episode number 1 of season 1.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The free feed stays free the whole time. There's no time limit on it. That doesn't ever become part of the paid feed and you lose access. That's right there for you. But if you just can't get enough of USWA Challenge and you want more wrestling, somehow that didn't make you swear off on pro wrestling entirely, we've got dozens at this point almost of episodes. I believe if you're listening in linear fashion, over 20 episodes that are brand new to you in the bonus content feed through either avenue that you can use to get it.
Patreon.com/WrestlingAtRandom or subscribing directly in your Apple Podcast feed. Unlock that bonus content now. You don't just get that one episode. You get all of the entire back catalog of the bonus content. So that's hours and hours, like you mentioned, of content with just a click of your button to subscribe today. So with that, we're going to wrap it up. Adam, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremy. I also need to thank Robert Fuller because you made
Save the show.
You made this 1 hour of my life that I spent watching this not feel like a waste, and there's really no higher compliment I can give.
Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.